By the 1970s, decades of increasingly stringent government regulation, together with intense competition from other modes of transportation, had brought the U.S. industry to a near ruin. During the 1970s, most major railroads in the Northeast, including the giant Penn Central and several major Midwestern railroads, were bankrupt. More than 21% of the nation's rail mileage was accounted for by bankrupt railroads. By between 1970 and 1979, the rail industry's return on investment never exceeded 2.9% and averaged 2%, well below what a child could return on a savings account. Railroad's average rate of return had been failing for decades. It was 4.1% in the 1940s, 3.7% in the 1950s, and 2.8% in the 1960s. By 1978, the railroad share of intercity freight had fallen to 35%, down from 75% in the 1920s. Railroads lacked the funds to properly maintain their tracks. By 1976, more than 47,000 miles of track had to be operated by reduced speeds because of unsafe conditions. Deferred maintenance that needed to be done but railroads could not afford, was in the billions of dollars. The term standing derailment, when stationary railroads simply fell off poorly maintained tracks, was often heard. The status quo was untenable, so Congress essentially had two options: nationalism at a continuing cost when told billions of dollars, or a move toward a more reasonable, balanced regulation to replace the excessive regulations of the past. Congress wisely chose balanced regulation and passed the Staggers Rail Act of 1980. After passing Staggers, Congress recognized that America's privately owned freight roads needed a common-sense regulatory system that allowed them to manage their assets and price their services like most other businesses. The Staggers Rail Act eliminated many of the most damaging regulations, allowing railroads to take a smart, customer-focused, and market-based approach to railroading. Under Staggers, regulations retain authority, which is still of today, to protect shippers and consumers against unreasonable railroad conduct and unreasonable railroad pricing. After the act, major railroads decided that it was a good idea to merge. Some railroads merged to create bigger railroads, but some railroads weren't as lucky as others. Rio Grande Western Railroad. In 1983, the Argentine, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway and the Southern Pacific Transportation Company announced their merger, which was long considered a logical move, given the growing trend of railroad mergers and acquisitions. A new holding company, the Santa Fe Southern Pacific Corporation, was created in December 1983 after both companies were acquired through a stock swap of about $5 billion. In March 1984, the holding company formally petitioned the Interstate Commerce Commission to approve the merger of the two railroads, while both companies would continue to operate independently and competitively. The merger was expected to be approved, as other recent mergers have resulted in the creation of much larger western railroads, such as the Burlington Northern Railroad and the Union Pacific Railroad. After the merger, the company's extensive non-railroad holdings were immediately combined. Santa Fe had significant holdings in gold mines in California and Nevada, while Southern Pacific owned more California real estate than any other corporation, including 200 acres in downtown San Francisco and more than 150 acres near Disneyland, valued at $5 billion. Despite opposition from the district, department, and competing railroad industries, analysis largely expected the merger to be approved. John J. Smittet, the head of Santa Fe Southern Pacific, argued that Southern Pacific had been long losing money since 1982, and that Santa Fe was not financially healthy enough to survive independently. However, in July 1986, the ICC board rejected the proposed merger, citing that the railroads had extensive parallel operations in California and across the Southwest, and that merging the lines would have a substantial adverse effect on competition. The company quickly moved to strike a deal with the competitor Union Pacific to grant them rights to use some of Santa Fe and Southern Pacific's tracks. The company also started the process of selling off some of its non-railroad businesses. After those changes, on December 9, 1986, the company appealed to the ICC's decision. However, on June 30, 1987, the ICC declined to reconsider the merger and ordered the companies to sell one or both their rail lines within 2 years. The Santa Fe Railroad merged with Burlington Northern in 1995 to form the BNSF Railway, while the Southern Pacific was acquired by the Union Pacific Corporation the following year. In the end, the merger of the Arkenstone, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway and the Southern Pacific Railway did not occur, despite the company's confidence and the decision to begin repainting the locomotives into a new unified paint scheme that would allow the future railroad to be called the SPSF Railway. The paint scheme, known as the Kodachrome paint scheme, combined yellow, red, and black and included the letters SP or SF, and an adjacent empty space where the other two letters could be added after the merger was approved. However, after the ICC's denial, it became a subject of ridicule among railroad industry writers, employees, and rail fans, who joked that SPSF stood for "Shouldn't paint so fast." Two ATSF MMD SD45-2s, ATSF 7219 and ATSF 7221 were painted with the full SPSF lettering to show what the unified paint scheme would look like after the merger was complete. One Santa Fe caboose was also painted with the SPSF in a similar situation. After the time of the merger denial, approximately 306 ATSF locomotives, 4 ATSF cabooses, 10 ATSF slugs, 96 SP locomotives, and 1 SP caboose have been painted in this fashion. The two railroads made an effort to repaint locomotives in their standard paint schemes after the merger was denied. Santa Fe repainted all Kodachromes still on the roster by 1990, while Southern Pacific's less numerous Kodiaks were repainted much slowly. Some remained active in Union Pacific after the SP buyout. One EMD GP9 locomotive in the Kodachrome livery, XSP2873, was preserved by the Western Pacific Museum in Portal.